The session is going to be recorded. Hopefully everybody's okay with that, but.
Okay. Good.
There we go.
I can see the recording has started. So guys, welcome at the first ETSA peer parliament that has been organized in the framework of our climate ambassadorship. I'm pretty sure you are all familiar with ETSA, the European Textile Services Association. So I will not go in details into that today. Because we all belong for one reason or another to this association, either because you belong to national associations or because you are part of the large companies that are members of ETSA, or because simply you are perhaps suppliers. So that is the reason why you are today in the first place. The second reason, and most important, is that ETSA has become a climate ambassador for the European Commission. This is an important title for ETSA Secretariat, but also for all the members. And you probably heard that we have also submitted a pledge with a series of points where we promise the European Commission that in a time where there is a lot of debate on climate change, on pollution, on ways in which the industry can be more proactive in bringing some pragmatic ways to tackle some of the most difficult issues that we are facing because of climate change. We will have to be sure that within 3 years of time, we manage to bring, this pledge to reality. we really manage to tackle all the points, and there are many of them. As part of this work, of course, the European Commission is giving a lot of importance to the role that young people play in this discussion. You probably don't need me to tell you, but in the last maybe 2-3 years, we saw that young people have reached a platform and they are much more upfront in the discussion that perhaps they were in the past, which we think it's a very good thing. But how is textile services, so the sector that we are all involved in, reacting to this? Do we have young people that are involved in the discussion? And what do they think? What good ideas they can bring into the discussion? The today debate will have a bit of a double meaning for you. On the one hand, myself, I'm Elena Lai, because you probably don't know me, I'm the Secretary General for ETSA, and my colleague Nelly Ledevich, that you see there, will try to, ask you some questions to facilitate the debate. But today we would like you to forget for half an hour of this session to belong to Alice, to belong to DTV, to belong to TSA, to belong to ETSA, to belong to the Swedish textile service side. Forget about that for a bit. Just be yourself. Be the person you are, thinking about the topics that we will ask you to reflect. The second part of the discussion, we might go a little bit more close to the sector we represent, but slightly. The idea is to have a very honest discussion, because ETSA is trying to find ways to include young people, but also stop thinking too corporate, thinking also more emotionally, if you understand, in a certain way, and tackle things that perhaps in the everyday job, like in a working group or in a workshop, we don't really tackle. So this is the idea for today's debate. The second part is also very important, because the outcome of the discussion of today, that is a little bit experimental in a way, we would like also to bring it to a workshop that we are planning for April. And we would like to engage some of you, but hopefully also some friends of you that you might would like to take with you that have nothing to do with the industry, okay? But that you would take with you just to see, okay, we have all this vision, but what does the common person in the street or a friend or a family person that you might want to take think about of all these topics? Because sometimes we are taken by what we do at work and we don't really get that there is a bigger picture out there. So I hope this makes sense. We can complete it, during the chat. But the first thing I would ask you now is to give a first introduction. I will call you by name, so you can tell us where you are from and the type of job you do if you want or if you don't want, and then we will progress with the question. Okay? Does it make sense? Okay, cool. So I would call, first of all, Emma.
Thank you, Elena. So hi, my name's Emma and I'm from the UK Association, which is the TSA. And I am the Finance and Membership Director. But my role is quite broad, so I do anything from events, membership, finance, and I've also taken on the diversity and inclusion topic, which has been really fun. And I've got quite a broad background, so I'm half Swedish, half Finnish, but lived in England for more than half my life now, so a bit of a mix.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks a lot. And now I see Giancarlo.
Hi, I'm Giancarlo Alves da Silva. I'm part of the ETSA organization. I'm currently working in the Netherlands as the CSR manager. I've been working here for 7.5 years on different topics, mostly customer service, some international projects, and I've been doing this for 2 years. I was born and raised in the Caribbean on a small island, so we have a lot. I'm very well aware of the impact that climate change could have, because that's a part of the island will disappear if things don't go better. So that's also part of the motivation and the interest in the topic.
Thank you, Giancarlo, and welcome also to you. And I see now Nadia.
Hi, my name is Nadia. I'm from New York in the States, and I'm currently an exchange student with American University, and I'm an intern with ETSA.
Thank you very much, Nadia, and welcome. And now I see Nicola Gostoni. It's frozen, I think. Maybe we give time for Nicolas to come back, and so I move to another Nico Schulz.
Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Nick. I am also originally from the United States, but I moved to Europe about 8 years ago. I work at ETSA in terms of communications. Prior to that, I worked actually at the European Committee of the Regions, and yeah, it's I've been here at ETSA for a year. It's been a ride. It's a small team, so I've been wearing a lot of different hats, and it's been a good time.
Thank you, Nico. And I can see now Tanguy from DTV.
Hi, I'm Tanguy. I'm coming from France, but I'm working in Germany for the Textile Service Association of Germany. I'm policy officer for the and responsible of the transfer of industry-specific informations. And I worked before for a company of the sector where Giancarlo is working right now.
Perfect.
I'm happy to be with you.
Very nice. We see some interconnections somehow. Ciao, Tanguy. Welcome. And I think we have Carl Johan, if I'm correct.
Carl Johan is not here, it's just Frida and Jack.
Frida and?
Jack.
And Jack. Frida and Jack, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Elena. Yes, I work in we're in the entrance carpeting industry. Yes, and I work in distribution and administration. I've been working in distribution for 2 years now, and since today actually I'm starting working in the administration.
Perfect, guys. You're very welcome to the chat debate today. And I can see also Nicolas has just joined back. Gostoni. Nicolas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. I'm sorry, I just had some problems. Nothing. But yeah, so I think now it should work. Everything should work. So yeah, I'm Nicolas. I'm 27 years old. I was born and grew up in Switzerland, in Bern. I just finished my studies last autumn, and I'm working for the Jensen Group already now for 1.5 years. First part-time and now full-time since November. And I'm working in marketing and sales. And yeah, the whole topic of sustainability is anyway a big topic in our company. So I'm really happy to in this conversation here today.
Thank you, Nicolas, and you are also very welcome. So I think we have all managed to say who we are. Maybe also Nelly, you want to flag because you didn't get a chance really, but it's important because we have to lead the conversation.
True, actually, yeah. So I'm Nelly. I'm working with Elena and Nick in Brussels for ETSA. I'm French. I've been in Brussels for donkey years now. And before I was working for NGOs in public health. So, I mean, you know, sustainability, climate change, and all that, those kind of issues were dear to my heart as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. I think it's nice to see that many of you have kind of double nationalities or have been growing in different countries of the world. It's quite interesting also to have different perceptions of the debate. So it's good. This was coincidental. We didn't choose you because of that, but it's good. It's good. Okay, so guys, maybe let's start having a look at some pictures that we will show you now. I would like you to look at all of them very carefully, because then I will ask each of you or what you really felt looking at these pictures. Okay, that's the first part of the chat. So the first picture, it's a nice Siberian taiga.
So taiga is the name of the region.
Siberian forest, okay, all right, that in the taiga, and very green, I can see. Then let's move to the second one. We don't see it all, but we can notice some nice seaside water. Okay, let's move on. Nice deer in the forest. It's quite green also here, quite nice to see. Okay, let's move.
Yeah.
That's nice. I don't know where this is exactly. I can see it's a hiking trail. It was a hiking trail.
That was in Eastern Europe, yeah.
Yes, in Eastern Europe. So let's give Eastern Europe that they have fantastic trail for trekking, quite good ones. Let's move on. Polar bear. Let's move on. This is after a hurricane, if I remember correctly, in Houston after the floods. Okay, so and this is instead in Africa, probably North Africa, maybe I would imagine, and it's a bit of a garbage area there. You can see mixed with the population with the locals in the place. And move on. We're still in the US now. Regrettably, also this is a picture that has quite a lot of meaning and importance. And move on, the last one. A bird, if we can still see the bird, because it's not very visible either. Okay, so let's come back to all of us. Who is the bravest amongst you guys? After seeing all these pictures, what you really felt in terms of what's happening to the climate? Do you recognize these pictures as, yes, it's reality, it's facts that we are seeing every day? Can you argument a little bit? Emotionally, what that made you feel looking at this? Giancarlo, you are muted.
Yeah, sorry. If I can start, I think there's a clear difference between the first ones where you see the nature as intended, the serenity, the beauty, the peacefulness, and then everything that comes after. Some of it is man-made, done by us, some of natural disasters, and you also see the impact that it has on not only the bird, but also everybody that is affected or displaced by these. And it's a shame because we have a hand in trying to limit or stop that.
Yes, that's very true. Is that somebody else has felt like Giancarlo or in a different way somehow?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Nicholas, you go.
Yeah, no, just go first.
Okay. No, I was just going to say it's so beautiful seeing those first images and makes you realize how beautiful the planet really is, and then it kind of, as you show the other ones, it's really upsetting the effect that we've had on the planet. So yeah, it's almost heartbreaking seeing those things, and it's quite raw. I think a lot of the time, day to day, it's quite easy to push those to the back of your mind. But when you see those pictures, it's really upsetting.
Yeah, indeed. Nicholas.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same. I mean, first you see how beautiful and how peaceful the world or the nature could be or should be, and yeah, then all the pictures that are the consequences of our living and of the things we do. I mean, it's nothing, unfortunately, nothing new, but something, and because at the end it's about our life as well, or our next generations, and it's in our hands to do something.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, Nadia.
I think it's a very real reminder that I think it's sort of similar to what Emma said, that just because you're not seeing those photos every day doesn't mean you don't have a role. It doesn't mean you're not being impacted by climate change in other ways. It's also super disappointing as somebody from the United States that 2 of those pictures were from there, especially like Houston and Florida, and a lot of those southern states are getting the brunt of it. So it's an urgent reminder that you have to start doing something today in order to like accomplish the UN's goals and everything.
Thank you, Nadia. Anybody else who wants to chip in, guys? Please feel free.
I mean, I guess I would just kind of add on to what the other Nicholas was saying. I mean, there's this saying, I think it came from an indigenous American tribe, that you don't own the earth, you borrow it actually from your children. And I mean, in Christianity, you have kind of a similar idea that, you have the earth for your own usage, but like, you're supposed to take care of it. And I mean, I think we've all lent our friend, like say our computer, and then he returns it to you and you're like, what the hell? This is covered in viruses and malware and everything. And you think about the kind of world you're leaving behind after we're going to be dead and gone, even ourselves in 100 years, what's left. And yeah, seeing those pictures of those people, shoveling through garbage, trying to find a way to live. And then, the floods, obviously, in Houston, it's, troubling to see what the future could hold if we don't act.
Yep. So some kind of messages hidden between these pictures. Let's move to maybe Tanguy and Frida and Jack. Would you like to tell us what you felt looking at these pictures?
For me, I felt like watching to a WWF video clip, to be honest.
Okay.
But for me, I see that as a roadmap. It's how to say that. I know it's a word well known in the Commission, but it's really the job that we have to do to the next 50 years. It will take time. It makes 60 years that the scientists say that we have to deal with it. and it make like 5 years that the Commission in Europe start to do the job. And it's glad that we start here because we have a lot of job to do.
Yeah, that's
But
very true. That's very true. And Carl and Frida and Jacques?
Yeah, I just feel anxiety. It feels like it's a downward spiral, and you are afraid that it's too late. And I have children, and I'm afraid of what they will see in their future, if they can go on this beautiful hike or not.
Yes.
Well, Elena, if I may, I mean, to rebound on what all our participants just said, I was wondering, because, I mean, there was mention of fear, of really action to be done and really moving. I was wondering if each of you have already started, you know, like having conversation within your social network, yours as, you know, family, friends, and how do you approach those kind of conversation with them? Do you do it? Do you feel hopeful that they might also do the same with their own circles? And when you start conversations like this, usually what do you pick up? Is it something like you've seen, in the media, or you've heard on the radio, or something that happened in your backyard, let's say? How do you approach that starting the conversation? Maybe I'll pick a volunteer. Let's have Emma start. Oh no, Tanguy, go on.
Tanguy.
No problem. It's really a good question because it's a tough subject. Most of the time when we speak about that, is just like a drinking conversation, how the world is screwed and so on. But the good point is to bring, how to say that, that it's doable. It's just the point that it's doable. It's a huge challenge. It's not doable within 5 years, but we construct this crop in 150 years. We can let ourselves 50 years of work and of doing the process. It's really doable, and this feeling of we can do something is the most important, because solutions are here. They're everywhere. The solution, just it's difficult because we always we feel like, oh, it's too much, and we have always to deal with this kind of emotion, which is a lie. We can do it. It's a lot of work. It's not always nice, but it's doable.
Anybody else who wants to take the floor after Tanguy?
To add to what Tanguy said, I think a part of what also makes a discussion difficult when you start them is that it's not the same effort for everybody. There's a big difference. Some of the steps that need to be taken, buying some more sustainable products, are sometimes expensive in the sense that not everybody can participate. So it also gets this stigma that either you're like this tree hugging happy person that you want to do everything for, or you come over as, oh yeah, but because you can afford it, you're trying to impose this on me. So that it adds as a dimension to the conversation. It doesn't necessarily make it about the environment or climate change anymore, but about social status, which just makes it very difficult to have these type of conversations. So at least that's my experience.
Yeah. And if I may, because both you and Tanguy have tackled two important parts in your everyday life, all of you, what do you really think you are already doing to change a little bit this current situation? In practical actions, what are you doing? This is a very simple question, but also tough, because when you think, okay, but what really I am doing for the environment every day? Can we ask you? I know it's a bit of a personal invasive question, but
please.
I will expand a bit on, Tanguy, I would a bit frame what Elena just mentioned, and we could maybe focus a bit on like food consumption, for example. Like, are you eating less meat, or I don't know, whatever, food consumption. What do you do about mobility as well, guys? Are you trying to walk more or to use alternative to cars or whatever? And maybe like in your own home about energy efficiency, what do you do? And small steps or big steps like solar panels, I don't know, on your roof. So
we're curious.
Like we're very curious. Please do. Please let us know.
I don't want to lie too much. The truth
No,
is,
please.
I reduced my meat consumption, but it has more to do with the welfare of animals as for the climate.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the climate, I would say it's more about the clothes. You know that in our world we hear a lot about the GOTS, about the Grünepunkt in Germany, but we can purchase that as a private person. It's possible. But it's what said Giancarlo. Not everybody can do it. You have to have still a good salary to afford it. The t-shirt, to white t-shirt to 30 euros. We have to be honest. It's an investment.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
No.
If I can also give, I think it comes in different forms. It also depends where you're from and what you're used to. I grew up, as I said, in the Caribbean, where we don't separate trash. That wasn't the thing because on the island we couldn't recycle it, so it would all go out to landfill anyways. And then I moved to the Netherlands, and here downstairs I have 4 different garbage bins because we're used to separating into 4 things. And that's the norm. In the Netherlands, 4 things is the norm, and that's normal. So that comes with it, and it's also, I think, important what's available. I can relatively cheaply get green energy here, so I choose for green energy. But I know in some places that's not possible at all. And indeed, as Tanji said, I think food is we also eat vegetarian food, but just that's because we like it. And if you want the really more sustainable meats, that is indeed quite expensive. So you can't do that, and you don't need to do that every day. And in terms of mobility, it's also, again, what's available. We have a very good rail network in the Netherlands where we can go. But the reality is, like, for example, for my work, our plants aren't necessarily close to train stations. So so that's
you can't do that, of course.
Yeah. So
yeah. What does the rest think?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point, that it really depends where you come from and what your possibilities are regarding the several areas. I mean, also in Switzerland, the separating of the garbage is just a matter of course, just like so normal that it's like, for me, I'm just doing that a little bit unconsciously. I just know I have to separate these things. And yeah, also anyway, in other areas, I definitely make efforts to, I don't know, use energy more sustainably. Also, if that just involves small things like unplugging electronical devices, or of course turning off the lights when leaving a room, or using LED lights at home. Yeah, I think it's just also already with small things you can make a big difference.
I was going to say, like, similar to everyone else, really, the recycling is a big part. And I think in the UK, the councils and the government are really picking this up now and really providing, you know, like the different bins for your household and things like that. But I also, I don't know, growing up, I've always loved fashion and clothing. So that's been a big change for me. Like, I used to always, I didn't really think about it. I'd buy a lot of clothes and always have a new outfit for any occasion, whereas now I'm a lot more conscious of actually you can reuse the clothes you have and you don't have to always buy something new. And I think that's with everything. So I think consumption's definitely going down, and I'm a lot more aware of you don't always have to have the latest or the newest thing, and I think that's definitely helping.
I think you have also your princess Kate that gives kind of a good example. She always recycles all the outfits, and that's also a way coming, you know, from the top to to recommend. Perhaps there is a way to change this. That was just something which came in my mind when you spoke about UK. Anybody else?
I mean, if I could build off that, I guess a little bit, like, you know, I mean, when I grew up, like, you know, nobody ever ate meat on Friday, for instance. It was just like a cultural thing. But, like, you know, people drove everywhere because there was just no infrastructure. And I guess what kind of, I mean, I think, speaking as somebody who worked for the Conservative Party, what kind of irks a lot of people is when people like Kate Middleton or Leonardo DiCaprio, who have all this money, tell people how to live, you know, when Leonardo DiCaprio flies, you know, 19-year-old models to some island and then goes on to the UN and says, okay, you need to buy this more expensive light bulb. And for a lot of people who, who have children or, don't really have a high paying job, it seems as kind of sanctimonious and pontificating. And I can see why some people get annoyed by some of these celebrities. But at the same time, I mean, just because people like Leonardo DiCaprio are annoying doesn't mean they're not right, so.
True, actually.
This is also important.
Yeah, if I can rebound on that last point from Nick, that is a very good one actually, about role models and people showing off themselves, and I was wondering if some of you had seen that film. What's in it? Don't Look
Up.
Did you guys? And yeah, so we were wondering, preparing this.
Nelly, one sec only. I'm just curious. How many of you watch it? Can you put the thumb up?
I watched it to halfway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fell asleep.
Okay. So good number.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So we know what we're talking about, guys. So I was just wondering about, like the word environmentalist. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you think it's what kind of feelings you have when you hear that the word actually is that? Do you think it's a good thing? It's a bad thing? What would you put on the environmentalist? And what should such a person do that would be good and positive for the planet and climate change, do you think? Aha, I've startled people. Nadia.
Nadia, you're muted.
I don't think that there's one set definition for being an environmentalist, and especially looking at the movie Don't Look Up, it's really terrifying how real it is. When you have people like Nick said, like Leonardo DiCaprio and Angelina Jolie, the work that they're doing is amazing, but it's not realistic and it's not brought down to a local level, and it doesn't take into account all the different cultures. So in America, you can reduce, reuse, recycle, the 3 R's that you were like, that's drilled into you from day one as a child. But we don't have 4 bins here. I was absolutely astonished when I saw that when I first came to Belgium. And it's honestly really refreshing, because I think you have to be able to see new places in order to understand what environmentalist means in different countries. But all the plastic and all the food waste goes in 2 different bins. That's it. It's also really expensive to install solar panels, something my parents looked into, and prices just continue to increase. So I think people in America will say, I'm an environmentalist and all they do is reduce, reuse, recycle. But people in Belgium will say, well, I'm only taking 10-minute showers and I'm only running the water when I need to. I'm only turning on the heat when I'm in the room. So I think rather than using labels and calling everybody an environmentalist, it just take little actions, take pride in taking steps to try and save the environment.
To add to what Nadia just said, I haven't watched the movie, but I don't particularly like the whole issue with labels is that you create a division. It's everybody in the in group and everybody in the out group, while theoretically it should be about changing the perception. We should all want a good environment. I mean, we don't all hike in the forest, but that doesn't mean that people would want the forest to be cut down, etc. And indeed, depending on where you are, the definition of when do you become an environmentalist is different. But if you bring it down to what matters to everybody, to something that's close to them and that impacts them, we all want the Earth to still continue going on, even if we're dead in 60 years. You want our society to keep going. So you just need to bring it closer down, not necessarily try to separate the groups, because then we're going to have semantics discussion where I'm more environmentalist because I have 4 bins compared to Nadia with 3. Well, it's not about that.
I'm totally with you, Giancarlo. Sorry, Elena.
I'm
really with you. We cannot let, how to say that, this subject only in the hand of a few very motivated person. They are important, but we have to think systematic. The system must be adapted to it. Else, it's doable, but we have a big job to do. And we cannot let 10% of the population play and wait that they manage something. We have to involve everybody almost.
Yeah. If I may ask you, because you mentioned this this importance of being careful when we talk about environmentalists. If you think back and, when you were a bit younger than now, do you think that the educational institutions helped you to understand the importance of preserving the environment, or you learned much more in your everyday life? or with your family or with your parents, where do you think you develop a consciousness for caring about the environment? Was it natural in yourself, or is it something that is coming from outside? It could be also the media or whatever. It's also interesting for us to understand this.
Yeah, I think in these times you get more and more confronted with the topic around sustainability, and whether it's about taking care of the environment, reducing CO2, or saving energy, eating healthy, and so on. And this, I think especially in the last 2 to 8 years, the awareness of sustainability has grown. It's basically now an everyday topic, and also with the upcoming or the emergence of all the different social media platforms like Instagram, or now more and more also TikTok, especially younger people are more aware about sustainability than ever before, I think, because before, maybe even in my time in preschool or in school, you had the topic sometimes, but you knew about it. But now with social media, you see it every day, and I know you have like influencers who are promoting that, and so young people are really aware of sustainability, I think.
Yeah. But when you were young, Nicholas, at school, do you remember if your teachers were quite engaging in this topic, or do you think it's more now that it's flourishing and then you teach it more at school as well?
I think now it's for sure more, but because what I remember from my time at school, in school, you had some topics or some subjects that were about the environment or about sustainability, but just like from time to time, not always.
Yeah,
and I think
not
now,
all the time.
Yeah, like I said, it's like every day a topic, I guess.
Anybody different from Nicholas that felt that at school already at their, when you were much younger than now, guys, you were, flagged these issues, you were invited to reflect on these issues, or is it something contemporary?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I can't speak for Nadia, but the American experience, I went to public school, so I didn't really learn much of anything. Global warming was seen as something that happens to some sad little polar bears. And, I had this girl I was kind of into who was from Alaska. So I was like, oh, that's kind of sad, but, it was whatever, I mean, the stereotype of an environmentalist was actually some old hippie who lived down on a trailer at the end of the gulch. But now I think for younger people, especially after the 2018 UN Katowice summit, it's like, wow, this is going to happen in our lifetimes. The worst of it will actually happen when we're above 60. And yeah, this is really an impending catastrophe. And, there's, I guess, a perception that some older people maybe don't take it as seriously because, 40, 50 years, it's not going to be their problem anymore. But yeah.
Yeah. So you are worried, Nico. You are
Very
worried. Yes. Okay.
I actually, sorry about that. I had a bit of a different experience. I went to elementary school in Dubai, and over there, if you left the lights on, you would get in trouble. If you didn't recycle, you'd get in trouble, and it was really hammered into me. Came back to the US for middle school, splat, complete, like nothing. But my high school did a really good job. It was like for class spirit, who could recycle the most cans, something like that, to really build in like joy and pride into like recycling and being an environmentalist, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah. So different member states, different continents, different approaches we can see. Nelly, you want to go on or shall I?
I would just wanted to rebound a bit on what was said just now on educational institutions, and because I mean we can see that it's been a work in progress. And for example, today I was just reading a press release from the Informal Education Council in France, because it's the French presidency. And there, for the first time, they said that they had included into the discussions youth delegates, first time ever. So I think that it seems that public authorities are trying to get the youth voice more and more. And I was wondering if you had any idea. I mean, if you think that, okay, I mean, you know, like, it's a good idea, obviously, but is it the way to go, like via youth delegates, you know, going to those kind of meetings, or are there other ways that you would think are better, or can go in parallel anyway? You know, the more the better. Maybe I'll ask Frida. Sorry, Nadia.
I think
I
the
don't
youth
know,
delegates could help. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just feel like people often don't trust other people to say their voice, like politicians also. And but if they don't change, they like, if I'm talking to someone about the environment and like, stop flushing the water in there, like, it doesn't matter if not all of us are doing it, or if it's not from the top. So maybe delegates should use more laws or something. It's more mandatory to be recycling, or
so more invasive from a legislative point of view at the local level as well.
Yeah, I feel like a personal responsibility is not enough, because it's easier to just, it doesn't matter if I do it or not.
Yeah. This is an interesting point, guys. Do you agree with Frida? I mean, do you think more strictness from the state level, from the laws, from the local level is needed, or this is not enough? She points that something quite important, our personal responsibility in this, you know, bigger, wide, diverse world where I do something and maybe the other person does nothing, won't be effective in the long run. Do you think it's the case, or we need to have a different approach? What do you think? Which is a little bit what Nelly asked as well. But
I mean, I think it's kind of rather disheartening sometimes that, you know, we're encouraged to commit these sustainable activities, and at the same time you see governments or multinational corporations not taking the issue as seriously as we are. Sometimes you see that, and you know, it's sad sometimes to see that, because at the end of the day, I mean, it takes everybody. This is a collective effort, and if you don't see governments taking it seriously, it's really thinking, okay, what is the point, you know, of buying a more expensive light bulb or eating less meat?
Yeah.
I think if you make the pressure equal on individuals and companies, then it will also be seen as more fair. Because indeed, again, if we stick to the 4 bins example, if I have 4 bins at home and I go to a company and they only have 1 bin where they just throw everything in it and they burn at the end, that kind of feels a bit crazy, because my few 100 kilos of trash a year doesn't compare to those thousands of kilos of trash. And I think on the youth part, having those the influence from younger people in the program could be beneficial. I think the risk is mostly when you're being too idealistic, which is good. Like, you need that balance between being idealistic because you want to change everything. That could be seen as also unrealistic in terms of what we can achieve, which then your opinion is discounted or not taken as seriously. So how do you balance those two? You want change, so you ask the younger generation for them, but sometimes you don't take everything, the practicalities into consideration with what you're recommending. So they do need some guidance into how to properly balance such a program for education. You can't make it only about the environment, because the kids also need to learn other things, but that's a very difficult thing to balance.
Yeah.
I was just going to say on the legislative bit that Frida mentioned, I'm not really sure if it should be a strict thing. But I think the government and the bigger corporations need to take a responsibility to help really facilitate, so individuals can really do everything in their power to, if it's recycling or transport, there need to be the things in place in order for people to do those things. I know in Sweden, which we don't have here in the UK, we have a thing where you recycle your plastic bottles and you get money back for recycling those bottles. So I think things like that, where you get incentives, could be really helpful. Yeah.
Emma, I'm 100% with you. No, but really, I think the European Commission is really doing good with the words that you said. Incentives. They are really working on the incentives, on the taxation and so on. It can be a pain because it needs to stay fair and so on, but it's a good way. And they are going this way. As well, the digital passport. We know that it will end with taxation more fair done and this kind of stuff. And I really find that it's a good direction they are taking. Of course, we don't see it because it's still in process, in discussion and so on. And right now we have a problem on the price of energy, but it's really the good direction, I think, that they're doing. Putting strong incentives with a vision of it will go up and up and up. Visibility and incentives.
To add to Tanguy, if the incentives with the proper, like if you gamify the entire the topic, it makes it far more accessible. For example, in my neighborhood, we used to have the trash bin where you throw all the trash. That was €7 for the entire container. Now they made that twice as expensive, but all the separated waste is free. Like if you separate cardboard, plastic, then you don't need to pay for it. We saw in 1 year that amount of separated waste in our neighborhood has more than tripled. Everybody's separating it. And that just happened just because they increased the price of one, and it still was done in a way that was perceived as fair because everybody can separate, and it saves you money at the end. So now everybody's separating. And if we can find ways to do that with more topics that, again, with the fairness point, it needs to be accessible for everybody, then you influence the behavior.
I think that Emma, Tanguy, and you, Giancarlo, have found these incentives as a potential way forward, okay, to make this fairer for everybody. Is there anything else, guys, and this is for all of you, that you think we could do every day to help somehow the big debate and the issues that we have at the moment? Anything else apart this incentives thing that I think it's quite good, and at the end of the day it proves to be effective, because you saw what happened in the neighborhood of Giancarlo. In 1 year they immediately changed the approach. So what else? I think we also have Frida and Jacques that said perhaps at local national level more specific laws that can also help this process a little bit, because sometimes you have citizens that are very good citizens that follow the rules, but others that care less about that. So sometimes law is useful in these cases. We already have identified 2 things. What else do you think we can do to really also push a real change?
I think it's important to show the result of one person. So, like if you switch off your lights every time you leave a room, this is the result. Imagine if all 1 million people do it. Because you have to know, often I think people think it doesn't matter if one person don't do it. Like a motivation to see what small steps can do.
Yeah. So you say it's important to gather perhaps data that relates to the everyday life of people that think are not doing something great, but in fact if we sum them up, it's something substantial. So we should show that more to the outside world, communicate it more, disseminate it more.
Yeah, I think it's abstract thought. Otherwise, it's hard to relate.
Yeah.
What I also would like to add maybe is a point that Emma mentioned earlier, changing the perception of how much do you actually need. I have a lot of friends that also are more aware of how much they buy, and other ones that indeed every week a new outfit. And it's just a perception because they also have no idea what the impact is. And you're not changing the world by buying one t-shirt less, but it does have an impact.
Yes.
And it is a tough battle because our whole economy is made out of promoting this material and convincing you that every 2 weeks you need something new. But it will add to that if you can change that perception. Be more critical. What do you buy in house? I mean, I'm minimalist. I have a lot of stuff in my house, but I am aware of it. What do we buy? You know, we just had Christmas season, and every day the trucks are full with cardboard boxes of stuff just coming in. And at the end, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot of stuff. And that awareness is something, it won't change overnight, but I do think that would contribute to it.
I think as well on what Frida said, that maybe you could have something as simple as a list of things, like this is what you could do at home, and then taking in what Frida said, this is the impact you would have. Because I think sometimes when it's quite daunting thinking about it, and you get that, I probably get the same feeling that Frida gets, that real anxiety of what can I do as one person to change this? It's really daunting. But maybe if you have as simple as like a checklist, if you did this before you left in the morning, or you did this at home, this will make this much of a change. I think that kind of breaks it down and makes it a little less scary. Because I think sometimes when you're faced with such a big problem, you almost freeze rather than take action. So I think simplifying it step by step would be really helpful.
Yeah.
I guess an aspect that about our lives that we totally forgot. We are all of us working, or most of us are working, and at work it's as well a place to bring this subject. Not only to sort the paper, but as well to see what can bring positive for our work or industry. Or I'm not speaking here as a lobbyist for the textile service, don't worry. But we all have working in industries or in companies, and there are always stuff to improve and process to improve in the Kaizen way. And it's really a way we can go. It takes time, but we have the time. We have 50 years of work on that.
No, but I totally understand you, Tanguy, because in my previous sector, I remember at a certain time, a guy joined the team. Our team was a disaster in recycling and doing anything which was good for the environment. And this guy came and started to give us directions, but none of us ever thought that these little things could help the everyday job. So I am totally with you on that. Sometimes we also need the right directions, and I can see going on at the moment that you have a lot of jobs, new jobs for head of sustainability popping up or things like this, because I think companies in a way are understanding these aspects. So the directions are also important in a work environment, I would say. So I'm with you on this. Okay, anybody else? What can we do for the future to be more effective?
Guys, do you think that maybe innovation and, I don't know, like incentives and money, but for innovation, research and digitalization, all that lot, that is also a way to go forward, maybe?
To add to that, maybe not just innovation, but also sharing the information we already have. Our sector, we have laundries. We know very well how to wash our garments. We compete a lot with company, for example, that wash at home. And we have a lot of knowledge about how to properly do that in a cost-effective way, good for the environment, but we don't share that enough. And we also don't share enough about all the innovation that we're still working on. But I think the combination of that, there's a lot of knowledge that we as a sector have that is not shared to the broadened population. Like retailers are also struggling with this information. How do they recycle their garments? We've had a head start because we have more standardized collections. And I feel like we're mostly wasting energy trying to reinvent the wheel, while there's a lot of information that could be shared for the good of this entire topic. And if you look at innovation, I think again, it comes back to the same points. How can we produce? How can we give our service without requiring extra resources or limit the amount of use? Or also a topic that we're talking about now internally is the sustainable input of people. Like these, we live longer, but the jobs that they do are hard on your body. How do you make sure that our employees can reach their 70th, 60th year while still functioning properly? These are things that are good to share, not only internally, but also across the industry.
Yeah. I'm just leaving time in case anybody wants to chip in. Otherwise, I come up with. Yeah, Nico.
I could just add on to innovation. I mean, I think that is, that is vital, because at the same time, we have to understand that there is a mass industrialization happening in sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia. And, after the way we've been living here for the last 40 years, we can't say, hey, you can't industrialize there. You can't, improve the standard of living. That wouldn't be right. But we have to, foster and invest in sustainable development, not only here in Europe, but also outside. And I think a way to do that is to make modern industrial technology more efficient. And that includes, industrial laundry, textiles. It also includes energy, transport, mobility. Everything across the board. It's not realistic to pull everything back to the 1800s anymore. We have to try to move technology forward.
Yeah. But Nico, to add to that, by making it available, they can also leapfrog.
Oh, yeah.
In Southern Africa, they don't have landlines. They moved straight to the cell phone.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
The same concept can be applied to many other aspects if you just provide it in a reasonable way, so that they don't need to indeed go through all those steps that we went through, as long as it's available.
Agree fully. Yeah.
We have the washing tunnel, which are already invented now. Sector.
Okay. If I now move a little bit the topic on towards communication and media. When you look into the media, how do you feel about the information you read there? Is it helpful for you to, you think, to change the way you approach the environmental issues? The reason I'm asking you this is that, of course, the European Commission is in the middle of a campaign, guys. Okay, they are trying to convince everybody, because it's good, because it's important, that we change our habit. Perhaps that we use more the train rather than the car, as we said before, or that we use more solar panels, as some of you said before. But how can we really outreach everybody out there to convince them that this is the way forward? Do you think it's the right approach, what is happening so far with the media, with the communication you came across with? Or do you have some skepticism for something, or something that you would do it differently? I know it's a complex question, but anybody who wants to try?
I think, I think it's we really have to pay attention, because on the one side there's this, for example, for younger people, there's this whole movement of Fridays for Future, but on the other side there's this whole world full of influencers promoting fast fashion. And so at the same time, so my two worlds, because younger people know and care about sustainability, may fly less, may use the bicycle instead of the car, may not eat meat, but then order every day or several times during a week clothes or other things online, and have the new smartphones, eat a lot of avocados every day. And it's we have to pay attention, because a lot of serious climate activists, or who are taking this seriously, are now accompanied with a lot of, let's say, wannabe climate activists, because the whole topic can be some sort of a hype as well, and that's not the correct way, I think.
So we have to be careful the way everything is exploited in a certain way for different purposes. This is what you're saying.
I think also tackling the
especially young people don't
misinformation.
think,
Sorry, Nicholas.
At the end. No, just go on.
Yeah, to add to that, to tackle the misinformation, like I come across ads about clothing suppliers where you see 10 types of garments of different colors going in at the start, and then they show a recycling machine and then white textile comes out in the back. And that's the expectation. Like when I talk to my friends indeed about the clothes, don't worry, we'll just throw it in this place and they'll recycle it. Like, no, they won't recycle it because that's not how that works. But that is what they see. They see, oh, I saw this video where they throw it all in and you get new t-shirts. Like, yes, for a very small fraction, but most of it won't come out of a new t-shirt. But that's the expectation that is based on those videos. So that misinformation makes our job very, very difficult. Because we believe that we have a problem just because, oh, now, well, we need to invent a new recycling technique. No, we don't need to invent a new, we need to just use less resources and use better resources. We don't have an environmental problem because we can't recycle everything. We have an environmental problem because we're using too much stuff with all the consequences. And communication plays a big role in that perception, as also Nicola said, with all those wannabe influencers that propagate the wrong information.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like the thing you said with people who saying, yeah, I'm bringing it to that place, they will recycle it or whatever. I mean, I think in Bulgaria, for example, you can buy recycled clothes and then they use it they just burn dust for the heating because they have cold winters or whatever. So yeah, I mean, when people think, yeah, they will recycle their t-shirt, at the end, it won't get recycled. Just a part of it.
Nadia.
I think it's become a huge trend to be environmentally friendly. But what happens when that isn't a trend or when it isn't like trendy or like a social media focus anymore? So it comes down to being like accountable, being an informed consumer, and also checking yourself. Who are you following on Instagram and TikTok? Who are the social media influencers? What brands are they promoting? What do those brands, what are they doing? Are they practicing corporate responsibility? Do they have a sustainable business model? It really comes down to that. And it doesn't take long to fact check. You want to make sure that the information that you're consuming is accurate, but that you're also receiving information from the other side so you can have these healthy conversations. How do you talk to people who don't think it's important to participate in like sustainability, or people who don't flat out don't believe in climate change? You have to make sure that you're consuming information on both sides.
Yeah, that is also an important point. So let's get rid of misinformation. Let's be more targeting where the good information comes up from. Anything else? You already gave several interesting points, guys, that can be, they can be quite personal, but also somehow related to the sector. So it's quite interesting what you have put together so far. Anything else you would like to add? I think that our time, if I'm correct, is ended. And I think I'm very satisfied about the type of discussion we had. It was just the initial discussion, guys, the start. And I hope that you had a chance also to hear a bit what the others have said. And of course, it's an hour, so also the messages have to be succinct, and it's difficult to say everything you might want to really say. But what about if we were organizing a workshop in April somewhere and invite you there, having a moderator that will be neutral, so not myself, because I'm not neutral clearly, because I'm ETSA or Nelly or Nico and Nadia. It's impossible. But what about if we organize a workshop and we try with each of you to bring one or two of your family or friends that will come and listen to the debate, and of course it will be better organized than 1 hour webinar, and we see what it comes out of the discussion from who is from the sector and who doesn't have a clue of the sector. Would you like to be involved in such a thing?
Yeah,
Can I
will be very
see?
interesting.
Can I see thumbs up? Good. Also, our Swedish friends over there. Yes. Okay, guys, I'm very happy. Nico, tell me.
Before we end off, maybe we could take a picture.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Important. Yes. Communication.
All right,
So,
all right, so smile, think of something funny. I stepped on a wasp not that long ago. 1, 2, 3.
good. I'm sure we will not happy with the picture. Every time we check, no, this one is not good. No, this one is not good. But it was lovely to have you guys. I think it was very interesting for me personally, because I also heard stuff that I didn't reflect on before. And I hope to